Hey, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the RAAD Life. Today is actually kind of really, every one of these episodes, I said this every time. Every episode is actually special for me because I really get to sit down with people. I really enjoy their company, what they're doing, and just their energy, and get to spend about an hour with them, and I get them to tell me things that maybe they don't tell other people, but we'll see where that goes today, right? Um, so today I have I've been wanting to do this for a while. I met this gentleman, God, less than a year ago in person. And he's become a really good friend. And I think we have some similar ways of thinking about some things that are pretty important right now at this phase of life. And we're part of a little bit of a larger group of people that are kind of like all in this space. So we all feed off each other. It's almost like having a tribe, or as he calls it, a street gang. We'll talk about that later. But I'm really happy to welcome entrepreneur, author, business owner, troublemaker of sorts, and a friend of mine, Sterling Hawkins, to the show today. Sterling, are you with us?
I am. Good to be with you. It has been a long time we've been talking about this. So,
Well, for people, they would think like we literally met like last October. Shout out to Greg Scheinman, right? But we just literally met last October in Miami and the Miami, crew. And it was a special time, and it was like 48 hours. It was like 48 hours, and there was like this bond, right?
Yeah, yeah. No, I think you're right. We do think about things very similarly, but from different perspectives. And probably about half our phone calls could have been a podcast, but I'm glad we're finally getting to record it today.
Well, I keep threatening Sterling that we should probably do like a joint talk circuit, or maybe we even like collaborate on a book or something. But hey, stay tuned. You never know what's going to happen. I mean, that's the uncertainty, right? That's the embracing of the uncertainty.
That's right.
But
That's right. And by the way,
yeah.
I've never been introduced as a troublemaker before, but I like it. My mom would agree.
Yeah, she called me. She told me, make sure to slip that in.
Yeah.
Yeah. No. I mean, look, in the best of ways, right? Because challenging conventional thinking, maybe even offering alternative ways of basically looking at the same thing from a different perspective. If you can't see it through the door, turn your head and look at it through the window, kind of thing, right? So I love that energy that we have, because whenever we interact with stuff, you're right. Like, we look at things differently, but it's like adding another layer and dimension, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And, I was never, maybe when I was really young, but never a troublemaker for the sake of trouble. Like, I didn't want to just cause problems. It was, hey, there's something wrong here, or I don't agree with something, or I say the thing that everybody knows that nobody says. And it sometimes causes a little bit of disruption. And I think
at least
it's
discomfort
necessary.
for people.
Exactly.
At least for discomfort for people, right? Because you're daring to actually say what they may even feel, but they cannot articulate or have words for. Yeah, that's a pretty powerful like skill. And to be able to look back and go, that was kind of always an underlying current, like that was always there as a thread of sorts, even when I was younger.
Yeah. It's been beautiful to kind of look back in my life, and now I'm solidly in midlife, and think like, oh, these elements that I had when I was a kid or early on in my career, like now they're coming forward in like really meaningful ways. Like, it was always part of me, but only now am I embodying it, I guess you would say.
Well, that's a great word. And you and I had a conversation just recently about like identity, and we'll tap into that in a minute. But part of this is when I started this whole exercise with the RAAD Life and kind of like midlife journey, and kind of like publicly, openly, forwardly kind of sharing some of that. I really thought I was on a path of reinvention, only to realize that I was actually on a path of reclamation.
Amen. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So that thread that you're talking about, it's kind of funny because it's always been there. It's like, dang it, this thing just did not give up. It just stayed there. It kept growing as a weed. Every time you thought you'd ignore it, it still was there. The roots were still there. And now you're basically able to reclaim it in your more of a wholeness approach, and to basically embody it and integrate it.
Yeah, that's exactly what it is. I think, when it comes to reinvention, it's not so much like tearing everything down that you've built. Like you've had a great career, so have I. Many people have.
Hmm.
It's more a return to self in a way of like honoring the parts of yourself that are important, the things that maybe you haven't said, and listening to that little voice that's been maybe nagging you for years or in some cases decades, and starting to take some steps down that path. It's uncomfortable, but it's real. And I think there's real fulfillment on the other side of it.
So I want to come back to that because also a layer of like I personally think there's a layer of courage and vulnerability.
For sure.
There's a layer of healthy ego and humility. There's
Yeah.
like these dualities that exist. These sort of you know uh, what they call them, like polarities almost, that exist, right? That you basically
Yeah.
get not only comfortable with, but you get kind of really almost playfully malleable with, right? And you're
Yeah.
finally like having the ability to do that. You're looking for, you're no longer, I mean, we all like that validation, but we're no longer anchored in the external validation, and it's more
Yeah.
internally sourced now,
Yes.
with a little more sovereignty behind it. So I want to go
Mhm.
back to that because it's a really important conversation that you and I kind of start touching on with the identity. And I know you're working on a second book that's
Mhm.
kind of a little bit more about this, but I want to give people that don't know you, so that I'm not just hogging all the background, uh, you know, give people a little bit of back about your story, because you have an interesting, a really good kind of journey story. And as comfortable as you are, because you shared some stuff also recently at our friend Sid's birthday in Calistoga, that I felt was very vulnerable. And thank you, by the way. I didn't know if I got a chance to tell you that, but it means a lot when there's such a camaraderie and a comfort zone that people, especially with us guys, that we
Yeah.
are able to basically share in that safety of that space and feel not only supported but kind of like understood and seen.
Totally.
So
Yeah.
please, yeah, take some whatever time you want, man, and just give people a little bit of that background. Take them on that journey.
Yeah. Well, it has been a journey. So I actually grew up in my family's grocery store in upstate New York. So technically, I'm a fifth generation retailer. And it was always great growing up. I drive into the store with my dad and work the different departments. I remember, I think I was as young as 6, passing out cookies when the lines got long during the holidays, and worked all the different departments. And when I turned 15, 16, somewhere in there, my dad put me on night crew. And that's when it became, hey, this fun thing that I've been doing for a while. It turned into a real job.
Yeah.
And it was one of those families where you're not favored at all. If you're part of the family that owns the store, you have to work harder than everybody else just to
Hmm.
show them that there's no favoritism or anything else. And
Yeah.
I always thought that was a great way to grow up, like in community, with family, connected to the local farmers. It was very real in a sense.
Hmm.
And I found out pretty young, if people didn't like your apples or your attitude, they just wouldn't come back. And we had families that would shop with us for generations upon generations. And um, right out of college, though, I went a little bit different direction. I thought, you know what? It's time to spread my wings a little bit. So I started a retail software company with my dad.
Hmm.
And well, you can probably guess who our first customer was, right? It was, of course, our family store. It was like the perfect place to do a proof of
To
concept.
make a reference to your Apple thing, it's a low hanging fruit, right?
That's right. That's right. And I don't know if we just got kind of lucky with the whole thing. I mean, we certainly worked hard, but we got connected with this group in the Bay Area that was small at the time, but became this Silicon Valley unicorn, where we got acquired and become part of this. Here's another Apple reference. It was like Apple Pay before Apple Pay. A little fingerprint sensor sat next to the credit card
Hey,
terminal.
there's a,
And then,
there's a little there's a little guy with electric cars that started at PayPal, right? I mean,
that's right.
yeah.
That's right. Yeah, and it was amazing. You didn't have to carry your phone or anything. You just put your finger down, credit cards come up, loyalty cards, just like Apple Pay, only no phone.
Yeah.
And this is before the iPhone, by the way. So it's a long time ago. Some people maybe don't even remember those times. And it was a great idea, and people started throwing money at us. So we raised hundreds of millions of dollars, multi-billion dollar valuation. It was like probably most people have seen Wolf of Wall Street. It's like a scene out of that movie, models in the office, parties
Yeah.
at the Four Seasons. I mean, it was all of it. And here I am in my early 20s thinking, business easy, life easy. Clearly, I'm the next Steve Jobs because I was super humble. I'm all ready to, go public, cash in, buy a jet, buy an island, whatever you do when you're at that level.
Right.
I think I've got it made.
You're right.
And then the housing market collapsed. This is what, like 2008 or so, somewhere in there?
Yep, 2008, the crash.
And we weren't able to raise more money because of that, at least on terms that the board would accept. And we limped along for a while, and our organic growth didn't support the 700 people and offices all over the world that we had. So long, dramatic story short, the whole thing goes bankrupt.
Mm-hmm.
And
how old were you?
I was probably like late 20s at the time, somewhere in there, like 28 maybe, if I had to guess. And what I didn't realize is that my whole identity, my whole belief system didn't know what my life was about, because I thought it was going to be just, sunshine and roses the whole time. And I lost myself.
Mm-hmm.
And I think
easy to do, not only because of the age, but because the temptations of that kind of thing is so heady, and it's so almost disassociated with reality. It is just you're in this bubble that is just self-sustaining based on just the illusion of what it is, and you're so far detached from the actual reality of life.
Mm-hmm.
And hey, listen, I didn't have it through the business thing, but I had it for about 4 years on the side of the mountain in Switzerland in a school of 300 people that were every personality you're going to run into in your world. And there were a lot of people that were like, there were some people that were picked from the beaches in California to play volleyball for the village team. And there were people that, do I drive the Ferrari or do I drive the Range Rover? And my father's yacht is off the coast in Monaco. Right. And so it is very easy. And when you're impressionable like that, that stuff can break you, or it could do something else.
Yeah. Well, in breaking, I think, is a necessary part of growth, at least breaking at a identity level. And here's where I went wrong. You touched on vulnerability and humility in the beginning, but I didn't know I didn't have much of that in the beginning. But what I did is people would reach out and say, "Hey, Sterling, do you need help? Are you like, where are you going? What are you doing?" And I'm like, "Oh, I'm fine." I didn't ask for help. I just kind of turned in, hunkered down, end up spending all my money. I'm in all sorts of debt, not just company debt, but eventually personal debt.
Yeah.
And I did break. Like, I went from the penthouse in San Francisco looking out over the Bay Bridge to several years later at my parents' house in the bedroom I grew up in. And it was one of these like rock bottom, dark night of the soul kinds of experiences. And that first night, I didn't know if I could or even if I wanted to go on. It was dark.
So what happened?
Well,
I mean, did you sit in that for a while? Was there a period where you were just kind of like in that forge? You really were just, you didn't even necessarily even had a clear plan of what you were going to do. You were just going to sit, because the sitting in it is also part of the process. I think a lot of times people just distract. They're faced by something and they'll distract, or they will pivot into something else, or they'll go down a different rabbit hole. They'll lose themselves in a business venture or a relationship, whatever. And they don't give themselves the sit still, because that is one of the friggin' scariest thing on the planet for people to do.
No doubt. It wasn't fast. It was 6 years of decline.
Mm-hmm.
From when that company went bankrupt to, I think I was at my parents' house about a year, maybe a little bit less than that. And I was not sitting with it. I was avoiding it. I was
Mhm.
keeping really busy. I was working on, 10 different projects, trying to figure out my life, but I had never stopped and looked in the mirror and said, like, who are you, Sterling? Not to get too philosophical on you, but like, who are you? And what in this situation would make a real difference? And it
Mhm.
wasn't until I really wasn't left with many options. It was kind of like either I don't want to be here anymore, or I'm going to go after the things that I know I'm avoiding. It wasn't like some unconscious thing. Like I knew that I was embarrassed to ask for help and ashamed of, having all of this money and all this success and now literally having less than nothing. Um, and that really began the journey that I'm on now, where I started to look at these things I've been avoiding, denying, surviving, that I think in a large part um, caused the business collapse and certainly my collapse. I'm now going to address those things and proactively go after them. And that's when hunting discomfort started.
How long ago was this, Sterling?
It's probably about 10 years ago, something
Okay,
like that, 9
like a
years ago.
decade. Yeah, well, I mean, things tend to cycle in 10-year periods, more or less, right?
Mm-hmm.
I find that to be kind of a fascinating reality. I think there's this sort of, whether it's phase of life or decade, like I don't know what it is, but there's sort of this alignment with numbers sometimes, that it does take that long sometimes, and that just means that sometimes when you do that, it's more grounded, that it's not it's something that you can kind of like hold on to and build on foundationally.
Yeah.
um
Yeah,
yeah.
and I was very well acquainted with the pain, which I think is
Mhm.
really important for what I'm doing now. Sharing not just from here's the academics and the research and the case studies, but like I've lived this. I
Yeah.
know how hard it is, not just at a business level, but at a human level. Because at like a fundamental level, it's not companies that grow, it's the people that do. And if we're not willing to get a little bit uncomfortable and step into the unknown, then we are eventually going to be stuck.
So the do you find that that has also, having that personal reference point,
Mm.
sitting in it, actually allowing yourself to absorb that, to not basically try to deflect it or run away from it, or fight or flight kind of approach to it? Do you
Yeah,
find that that has a sort of a rooted basis for some of your ability to connect with other people that are maybe in that process earlier on, or even like a basis for empathy?
for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's not just at an intellectual level coming to
You're right.
terms with it. It's visceral. It's somatic. I remember laying in bed at my parents' house and just crying about like the life that I thought I was going to have, and it's no longer that, and things were supposed to be a different way than they really were. Um, yeah, like there's a lot of grief associated with growth, especially when there's challenge associated with it, right? Like
Mhm.
a business collapse or a business problem or a divorce or a breakup, or when
Yeah.
something goes wrong, there's real grief that the body's got to process to let it go.
Yeah, and if you try to derail that, it will still be there in need of processing. It just will
It will
catch
be.
you when you least want it to catch you sometimes. So
Yeah.
what, before we jump beyond this point, because I think it's kind of like your head is in that space for a second here. What would you say to somebody, or what have you said to somebody that basically shares with you that that's where they're at?
It's just what we've been talking about. Like you have to sit with it, come to terms with it, and acknowledge there's a lot of things out of your control in many of these situations in life in general, and there's a lot of things in our control.
Yeah.
And the past is the past, the present's the present. We cannot change anything about it now. But condemnation about what has been, like holding resentment or grief or resignation about it, only serves to color everything that you're looking at going forward.
So what?
And yeah,
Go
go
ahead.
ahead.
No, I was going to say. Yeah. I mean, it's almost a cliche, right? But when you say the only way around is through, it's really that. And if you look at the pain and the suffering as literally almost like a purifying fire,
Yeah.
and we
Yeah.
use the forge as a symbol, right? The alchemy basically burns off the impurities, right? What is left behind is not necessarily hardened in terms of being disconnected or distant, but it is more forged steel, maybe better forged than hardened, right? But that's there, and sometimes you have these identities that we keep talking about, like these you pull these identities as you go through life. I am the son. I am the startup entrepreneur. I am the guy that basically is now, and then all of a sudden, in its face, slapped in its face, is I am the son that basically back home. Like all of these identities are layers upon layers upon layers that eventually the who is Sterling, that core stuff that we're starting to talk about, that integrated stuff, which when you're young, I think you are the way you are because you are the way you are. You haven't really even taken the time to really kind of like internalize and understand what those are, or like to even be able to speak to these. This is my shadow side, just to have a Jungian reference, or this is my other layers of archetype, and this is how my composition is. But I haven't even taken the time. I'm just being who I am.
Right.
And then these other layered of identities, the student, the college graduate, the startup guy, the entrepreneur, all that stuff gets added on. And then you're faced with a situation like that. So you're in this situation, you're faced with like, I got to do, this is what I got to do. Like I'm running out of options. This is what I am. I've spent enough time sitting in there.
Yeah.
So what was the first, was there a aha moment? Was there a first step?
Yeah, well, first, I think that idea of purification is an important one, and really well said. I think when we approach change, challenge in an effective way, we allow it to burn off of us, and what you find there is something that's more real, more true. I've worked with a lot of entrepreneurs over the years, and I can't tell you how many of them have this like archetypal vision of being the phoenix rising.
Yeah.
And everybody's got the rising part, but nobody wants to do the burning because it hurts. It's really, really painful.
It's real stuff.
Right. And you only rise if you burn what no longer serves. And it can take some time, and you do have to sit in it. And there's a lot of resources out there.
And you can't rush through it, because anybody who's tried to basically rush through building a campfire ended up singeing some part of their fingers because they rushed through it. So like it's an interesting reality, right? In a world that basically wants instant, in a world that wants everything yesterday, packaged convenience and dropped at your doorstep of self-growth via Uber, you basically are told, the old formula still has to be. There is no shortcut. You got it. The only way around is through.
Only way out is through. Yeah.
Yeah. The only way out is through. And if you're basically really want to have the full effect of this, so you can maybe, I don't know, go through it again, but at a lesser degree of intensity, is you got to basically sit in the fire long enough for some of these impurities to burn off.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I didn't know all of this back then. I read a lot of books. I took a bunch of courses. I learned a lot of things, but knowing something and actually going through it are not the same. They do
absolutely
not produce the same results. And
some people think it is. Some people think
it's a sexy illusion, right? Like you look at all these things on Instagram or TikTok, you read the books, and it's challenging because you can parrot the language. You can sound smart and wise, but if you haven't actually gone through it, those things are hollow.
Exactly.
And all those wise words out there don't help you because you're not going through those things and embodying those things. You're just learning a bunch of stuff.
Yeah.
And, for me, thank you. Yeah. I noticed that I was always a little bit shy. I never liked to stand up in front of the classroom as a kid, and in business, I never liked to get in the front of the room and present. Like I always look for exit plans, or somebody else can do it, or I'll say something quick, or I'll memorize it really well and just say it as fast as I can. And I said, okay, well, if I'm scared to speak in public, it's really obvious to me. I'm going to go after go after that. I've never been a like dip your toe in the water. We could have a whole conversation about like the baby step approach. Um, I'm really going to go after it. So I ended up applying to speak at this conference in Singapore and talk to this poor guy, this poor event planner in Singapore running this big multi-thousand person event. And I talked this poor guy into being the keynote speaker of his event. And it wasn't real to me. It felt like kind of a game, talking to him on the phone, emailing back and forth, negotiating terms and fees and everything. And then he sends me the legal agreement. And I'm like, oh my God, like what did I do?
This is real. It's happening. Yeah.
Yeah. And I had all the self-doubt, like you're a failure in business, Sterling. You don't know what you're going to talk about. You've never done it before, at least at any meaningful level. And you're terrified to do this.
Mm-hmm.
But I did something that I think is important for all of us to do when confronted with the unknown and the uncomfortable, is before the self-doubt could stop me, I committed in a big way where there was no going back. I signed the agreement, sent it back to him, and I was locked in.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And I think it was probably maybe 6 months or so before the conference. And I call up my sister, who was right out of Georgetown with a marketing degree. She hadn't locked in a job yet. And so I call her up and I say, listen, you know, I'm bottomed out. The whole family knew. I've got this thing in Singapore. Will you help me? And I always give her a hard time because she said what any good younger sister would say. She says, Sterling, you're an idiot. And I'll help you,
that's
but
that's my younger sister too.
Yeah, right. I mean, she still plays the role for me. And she's like, I'll go or I'll help you, but I want to go to Singapore with you.
Mm-hmm.
And I agreed. And I initially was thinking about it like, you know, listen to me talk, give me some feedback, help me with the presentation, keynote file I was putting together. But what was really important is more the human emotional side of that, of,
Mm-hmm.
you know, making sure I got out of bed in the morning some days.
Yeah.
And I practiced like a crazy person, you know, writing, rewriting. I signed up for Toastmasters to like try out some things. And a couple of days before I left, I wasn't really eating. I wasn't sleeping. There were these moments where I felt like I couldn't breathe. I found out later those are called panic attacks.
Yep.
And I was sick and I was hot. And I remember stepping on that plane thinking, oh my God, this is really going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
And it didn't help that Singapore was about 110 degrees with 300% humidity. And I'm already sweating because I'm nervous. And
nobody can tell now that it's because you're nervous.
I'm melting. I wore a suit jacket so people couldn't see that my shirt was soaking wet.
Okay.
And I think I blacked out during that talk. And it must have gone relatively well because the conference director found me afterwards and gave me all sorts of accolades, which I'm sure weren't deserved. He just wanted to say something nice to this poor kid that bombed on his stage on the other side of the world. But he did go put me in touch with all of his conference director friends. And, you know, with a lot more speaking and pain and failure and great mentors, it's really become the seeds of everything that I'm doing today. And, you know, it pains me to say it sometimes, but my mom was right. The way out is through. We've just got to go through, no matter what it is.
Mom knows best, man. We hate to admit it sometimes, but, you know, it turns out that mom knows best. And you and I have talked about that. It's very true. My mom, you know, God, her soul, has been gone for, 6 years almost this May, and she still knows best.
Yeah.
In fact, we associate hummingbirds with my mother. And whenever I'm basically doing something around the house and I'm contemplating something or I'm about to do something that may be a little questionable, whatever, all of a sudden there's a hummingbird in the backyard to basically remind me that I'm still being monitored. right, for my
Sweet.
actions, which is really, I mean, it's a very sweet. It's like with your sister going with you to Singapore. It's like, I think for those of us who are lucky enough, because some people are not, to have that kind of a support, to be
Yeah,
able to basically have people that really have your back, regardless of what. It's not transactional. It's really
yeah,
relational. And a bunch of us have been through life enough to know that it's not everybody that has your back like that.
for sure.
Right.
For
Right.
sure. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's not a stretch to say the only reason still here is because of my mom and my sister.
Yeah. Well,
Um,
that's to their credit, but also to yours. I mean, to be able, because you could have come on here and you could have said, well, and I started with this thing and this was my topic and I walked off there like just owning the world. But that's not you. I know that's not you. So I appreciate that, because it's also part of the reality of anybody who's basically facing that challenge. Like, this is a journey. This is a path that's on your own terms, but also with the reality of life basically that you face. And every one of us
mhm.
is different. Like, you can't to stand on a stage and to basically guru down to people like there's a one size fits all is not true. And then there's a lot of people that do that, and whether it's you're selling product or whatever it is, but if
Yeah.
truly that mission or that calling to leave people better than you found them requires that level of humility, I think, and that vulnerability, and to be able to expose yourself. One of the first guys that I encountered on my journey, when I started this last year, was a
Mm,
gentleman and author by the name of Jerry Colonna, who came from a venture capital side of things, and he basically coaches executives. But I went to a workshop, and it was honestly the thing that remains with me is this New York Times bestseller, this multi-book author, known as the CEO, CEO whisperer. He was vulnerable, exposed,
mm,
personable, allowed that little soft underbelly to be part of the thing, and it was not an act. It was a
mm.
genuine, authentic expression of the man,
Yeah.
right? There's nothing more. I know there's some people that are super uncomfortable with that, like
Yeah.
feelings, emotions, vulnerability. But
Yeah.
I don't know how else to live life anymore.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's a beautiful way to live it because it doesn't feel good for most of us. And what's important to me, especially when I'm doing keynotes, is like I'm not on the top of the mountain. I don't have everything figured out. I
Yeah,
learned a lot of things. I experienced a lot of things, but I'm on the same path as all of you, right? Like I'm not just on the stage. I'm next to you, and it continues to show up for me in different ways, especially as I'm working on my next book, to just admit, yeah, I don't have the answers to this part. Here's what I think, but ultimately, my at least my more recent career speaking and writing is not just business focused. It's not just like, oh well, how do I sell more books and sell more keynotes? It's a personal discovery process of here's what I've learned. This works better than that. Hey, I said that 4 years ago, and I think that's still true, but there's more nuance to it. There's
right.
more
It's an ongoing.
time,
It's an
emotion.
ongoing. It's an ongoing thing. There is no, and it's both intriguing, but it's also exciting. I find that there is no end to this. That this
Yeah.
is an ongoing thing that we get to now that we have tapped into this and taken the time to whatever pivot, whatever happened, whatever rupture, we find ourselves in the situation is that we are been gifted the ability to be on an ongoing journey
Mm,
of based on curiosity, based on you said it, and you and I think the same way in many ways. I don't look at people. It's just like you with your sister. I don't look at the people that are engaged with the RAAD Life right now as being people that are working for me.
mm,
We're on this sort of journey together, each in our individual journey, right? But
mm,
we're all kind of and when I think about what we're putting out there, it's literally, and it's not a lecturing, it's not a guruing, it's not a follow me thing. It's more of an invitation to walk alongside
mm. Yeah.
uh, on this journey that is individual in its nature, but that we are taking together.
Yeah.
Right. And we've talked about this a little bit, like the Les Calistoga thing, and even in Miami, where part of these gatherings that we get to has a component of a hike or a rook walk or something of that nature.
Mm.
And it's ironic because symbolically, what we just talked about taking the journey together is it metaphysically takes place on these walks.
Yeah.
Right. And you're not sitting somebody may be leading, but then somebody may be dropping back and somebody else. It is a journey that I actually feel has been an amazing gift to be given.
Mm.
That we've kind of been on all our lives, but maybe didn't have the clarity or the intentional awareness to know that we're on. And now all of a sudden we get to basically be told or tell ourselves, hey, this is what I get to look forward to every day. And your whole thing about going to Singapore, you and I talked about, like, where I basically committed, where there's no turning back, and jumped off a friggin' bridge in Victoria Falls. Like that, that was like, now I made sure nobody was around that I knew that saw me in case I backed
Yeah.
out. But at the same time, there was like no turning back. And so let's use that as a point to come through to the hunting of discomfort, because I think a lot of people may misunderstand.
Yeah.
And by the way, thank you for the stickers, because they make really good bookmarks.
Oh, of course. Nice. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
let's talk about discomfort, because a lot of people may equate discomfort with danger,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
right?
And
So
it's
let's talk
not the
about
same.
that, like the real danger, perceived danger. Where does discomfort fit? Because it has a place, like uncertainty, discomfort. Sometimes people equate that with danger. No, I'm not going to go there.
For sure. Yeah. And we've miscalculated things that are actually dangerous. Uh, I like to do a lot of adventure stuff. We can talk about why a little bit later, but a number of years ago now, Haviland, my sister, wanted to go skydiving for her birthday. And I had never been skydiving. I'm thinking, oh, okay, fantastic. Let's go. They don't tell you got to sign your life away. You've got to give like a video proof of life that you're doing this on your own accord. It was after the video thing. I can't get words out of my mouth. I'm so nervous. And they're suiting me up and they're getting on the airplane. And she's got like all these cameras. She's like, how do you feel? I'm like, I can't even talk right now. And I jumped and it was beautiful. It was amazing. A little terrifying until the parachute opens. But I did some research afterwards. And it turns out jumping out of that plane is far safer than driving to the place to go skydiving.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, well, isn't that interesting? Like what I thought was dangerous is not dangerous. And the things I'm perfectly okay with, like getting in the car every day and driving, I don't think twice about.
Yeah.
Like there's a very clear line between discomfort and danger. And danger is in physics. Like you can see it in reality. It's worth getting acquainted with what the actual reality is and then tuning your emotions to a level of like, okay, yeah, this makes me uncomfortable, but it's not physically dangerous. It's not financially dangerous. It's not jeopardizing my company or my career. It's just uncomfortable. And I can do those things.
Do you think part of that? Do you think part of that, Sterling, is sort of inherited scripts, limitations put on early and only on, that they're sort of like inherently programmed and not really thought about? Because when you're right, once you stop thinking and do the little research, and God knows you could do it on your phone in 2 seconds these days,
Yeah.
right? You might finding opposing opinions on it, but you'll still be able to find enough data to choke yourself with.
Yeah.
And what do you think is the reason for that? Because it's sort of kind of almost like not necessarily parallels, but it's also like when I think about like self-sabotage, right? It usually drives from like ingrained, almost subconscious or unconscious, either inherited scripts or societal programming or family dynamics. What do you think? I mean, you've been on a lot of stages. You've spoken to a lot of 500 companies. You've been on the United Nations. I mean, you've come a long way in this 10 years. What have you found to be kind of common? Because you've encountered people that are like maybe very much in the beginning of their journey, people that are very accomplished in a certain way in their industry. But then what have you found to be a basis for that?
Yeah, I think it's all of those things. It's all the beliefs that we've inherited from our own experiences, from our family, from our communities, from whatever culture we're growing up in. And oftentimes we're taking on those beliefs unconsciously. Like we don't even know that we're doing it.
Mhm.
But we do know it's uncomfortable. And what I've found is by and large, we're not scared of exposure. We're not scared of losing our life in most of these situations. We're scared of losing a part of our identity that we felt was true, but is limited in some level, right? We're protecting something that doesn't need protection because you've probably outgrown it.
So we're protecting it out of habit.
Yeah, some limited identity. I described it a little bit leaving the company. I could have asked for help. I could have accepted help, but my identity wouldn't allow that. That wasn't conscious. I'm not thinking like, oh, I need to turn these people away.
Right.
It was automatic. I did it
Right.
without even thinking about it. And that's how limited identities work. It will leave you behaving in ways that protect the identity, but in a lot of ways sacrifice your life and your aliveness in that life.
Can I go? Can I dig a little deeper here?
Yeah.
Okay. So, do you think that had some basis in maybe shame, guilt, maybe male bravado? Like, where do you, and was that something that was maybe exemplified around you? Was it part of that smaller community? Like, where if you look back inside, like where that came from? Because I can relate. I understand that shame component or not meeting the goal that was the challenge that you set for yourself, and then basically saying no, because not only is it a reminder that you failed, but it also is flies in the face of what you maybe have seen exemplified around you or was mentored behaviorally around you.
For sure. Yeah. I mean, I inherited wanting to be perfect. Yeah, I'm the oldest of four. Uh, Grew up in a
Oh, firstborn dilemmas, man.
yeah,
That's
as a
that's a real
guy
thing.
in
That's a real
upstate New
thing.
York, right? Like, yeah, I wanna show up. I want to do the things. I want everybody to like me. I want things to go right. I don't want to, um, rock the boat too much. And yeah, it was a lot of what I got caught up in, where I lost my real self in that process.
So how do you tell somebody that is very much in that space, and we've just basically blown their mind by calling it what it is, right?
Yeah.
How do you tell somebody, what do you tell somebody in that space when it comes to helping them release that? Because I find like it's not necessarily shit like shedding the identity or throwing it away in the garbage.
No.
It's a different kind of integration, right?
Yeah, I think there's an acknowledgement that it has been successful to some degree. You're still here.
Yeah.
You've got whatever you've got, your business, family, community, friends, right? Like it's not like it hasn't worked at all. It's just that you're now ready to let go of it. And the best place to start, I always think, is with the things that you've been avoiding. Those things that have been nagging you of like, oh, I've got to send that email, but I've been sitting on it for 3 weeks. Or I've got to have this conversation with so and so, but I haven't done it for months, or in some cases, years. And when you commit, you find a way to hold yourself accountable, which is really helpful, or you keep kicking it down the road, and you actually have the conversation, you send the email, you do whatever it is, that
Yeah.
starts to shed some of those limiting beliefs. Cause like you know it at some level, but you have to do it. And it's almost like, it's not almost like, it does tell your unconscious of, okay, I thought this was going to go terribly, but I'm still alive. I managed it in whatever way that I managed.
Yeah.
And it slowly um, loosens the grip of whatever that limited identity might be.
Yeah, I mean, in therapy, in workshops, sometimes they'll tell you, you got to address that inner child and say, thank you for protecting me. I don't need you to protect me anymore. You did a great job. I
Yeah,
got this. But at the same time, you're also honoring and acknowledging that child. It's just that it is no longer basically based in self-doubt, it also isn't necessarily the identity that is, or the truth you that is behind the steering wheel.
Exactly.
Right. And you cover a bunch of that. I mean, and for anybody who's basically watching me leaf through this, so Sterling's book is Hunting Discomfort. It's available. It's a great read. I came across this literally after I came back from Africa, which is a really even additional alignment with stuff. Sometimes the universe will give you what you need and connect you with people at the right time when you can really, really appreciate it. And so I jumped off a bridge. I'm starting to explore uncertainty and how it basically is something we look forward to when we were children, and then we somehow basically abandon it when we're adults. And we have an opportunity at midlife to basically re-engage with the curiosity and the excitement of not knowing what's around every corner, and feeling strong enough to basically face it because you've been through enough shit that you know that you'll be okay. And so I came across Sterling's book, and actually it was funny, Sterling, because right after Florida in October, I actually went to I literally had your book because Greg basically, you guys had the books there, and I was on a plane to the island of Samos in Greece. And so when I picked up the book today, I had already marked up some of the stuff that I wanted to kind of maybe bring it to people's attention. But I got to the studio and I was like, this is actually a lumpy thing in this book. What's this lumpy thing in this book, right? And I have it off camera, but it was actually one of those wet wipes they give you from Olympus Airlines, right? So like I know exactly that this book was with me on the plane when I was going to Greece. Again, hunting discomfort without really having the language or the articulation to say what it is. But you cover a bunch of this self-doubt in chapter 4 that I found very interesting. Doubt kills more dreams than failure will, right?
Sure.
And we call it worry of failure, but it's really self-doubt.
Mm-hmm.
I want to talk about what makes somebody, like, what is it about discomfort? Because you could have said embracing discomfort.
I could.
Right?
I could.
You for those who don't know and have not been following, and why the heck have you not been following? You should be connecting to the RAAD Life. You should be looking at the raadlife.com. You should be checking out the articles. Sterling is writing an article a month for the thing. Sign up if you want to get the newsletter. That way you can be lazy asses and just get in your emails, and then you'll have the articles directly. Click away. But and we called it the uncomfortable truth. So Sterling's writing a column on under the uncomfortable truth. But why hunting versus embracing?
You know what's funny? I didn't know this until I wrote the book, but people that don't hear me talk about it previously or haven't actually read the book, their feedback is almost always the same, which is, Sterling, look at my business, look at my relationships, look at my bank account, like look at my life. I don't need to hunt discomfort. I'm surrounded by it.
Okay.
And I think that's true for many of us. We've got AI, blah, 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 global instability, and right? Like the world is more uncertain than maybe ever before.
Yeah.
But my answer is always the same. You're not hunting discomfort. You're living with it and probably coming up with some really smart, reasonable, rational reasons why you have it. When you hunt discomfort, it's not discomfort for the sake of discomfort. It's alchemizing some of those uncomfortable feelings inside of ourselves, opening our mind to new ideas, new perspectives. And when we can do that, it leaves us forever and permanently free. And so it's kind of ironic, but by hunting discomfort, proactively going after the things that maybe you've been avoiding or denying or surviving or living with, we actually live a more comfortable, more free life.
And that's the word, my friend. Like, that is the word. And that's why, like, it's interesting. I didn't intend to basically embrace the freedom always as a thing. I mean, just was not the first thing, right? But it keeps coming back. It keeps coming back. And there's a chapter in here that you talk where we, I might not find it here really quickly, but we're talking about like control, right? As a concept of control, like people feeling like their life is out of control. I need to be in control. And it's interesting because some people will distract by wanting more control, but it's really a bit of a fallacy. Like, you can control what you can control, and the rest of it you can't really control, but yet you spend their whole time basically trying to control what is uncontrollable, right?
Yeah.
from my perspective, hunting discomfort, if you will use this terminology of the book, hunting discomfort is actually the closest you're going to get to have the freedom and the control through freedom.
For sure. For sure. Yeah. I think a lot of people that I've
The
talked
meaningful control, not the pretend
to,
control, not the delusional control.
for sure. Yeah. I've talked to a ton of people and they crave this freedom, but how they mean it is typically in the physical sense of, oh, if I had $100 million in the bank or $1 million in the bank, then I would be free. But freedom is not an external function. It's internal. It's
Mm-hmm.
pushing on those boundaries of ourselves where we've been holding back, or we feel like we're not worthy, or we're just uncomfortable. As we break down those walls, which anybody can do at any time, that gives us not only personal freedom, but I found that almost always it translates into life freedom,
Mm-hmm.
where you're speaking your mind, you're saying the thing, you're having the difficult conversations, whatever it might be. Well, all of a sudden your business starts to take off and your marriage improves and your
Yeah.
friends are more deeply connected.
Yeah.
That's the source of this work, and I think that the source of real growth. It's not, here's a checklist of 10 new things to do to grow your business. Nothing wrong with that, but the work starts with us.
Well, it's also not abrasive, right? It's not where it's like, yeah, I'm free to do what I want to do kind of thing. That's not the freedom we're talking about. We're talking about a different, deeper, dare I say, almost on a soul level, but also with a lot of clarity kind of freedom, like the freedom to actually not embrace. I mean, this is the one thing that I'm basically exploring right now, is this sort of contrived urgency,
Yes.
right? In a
Yeah.
world full of hustle, where the word hustle now has become a positive versus what you do to rip off people at a pool table in a smoky pool hall. That freedom is actually freedom to embrace your own rhythm. Freedom is to not basically have to uh, you know, uh, perform, but to be present, to come from a place of presence versus from a place of performance, to resonate and not chase necessarily as much as basically put out and resonate in an energy which then attracts things to you, and vice versa. Like that's the freedom I think at least I'm talking about, and I think you might be talking about too. It's not
Sure.
it's not this freedom to be able to write whatever big check you want to do whatever. Like, what do they call about, you live in a gilded cage. I
Yeah.
mean, just because it's gilded doesn't mean it's free. And
Totally.
yeah, it's interesting. So you touched a little bit a minute ago about like adventure
Mhm.
and doing things that are a little bit out of, maybe other than the discomfort and the hunting of discomfort. Was there something else that you wanted to add to that? Like, why do you actually seek that stuff out?
Yeah, I'm not a thrill seeker. I'm not an adrenaline junkie. Sometimes people put that on me and they're like, "Oh, you love that stuff." And I'm like, "It terrifies me." Every time I'm doing something brand new, I'm scared. Not only of the thing, but I'm also scared when you make the real decision, when you make the commitment. And especially when you tell people about it. Like, it gets really real really fast. But there's this really cool thing with discomfort, is that it translates. Where we meet discomfort anywhere grows into our capacity to deal with it everywhere. It's like a muscle you can build. You want to build your biceps, you go to the gym. You want to grow your freedom, your results, your performance, your fulfillment. You hunt discomfort no matter what form it's in.
Hmm.
There's some research out of University of Michigan, and they were studying different kinds of discomfort, like physical discomfort, like you stub your toe, emotional discomfort, maybe you have a difficult conversation. And they found physical, mental, emotional, the brain and body process it almost identically. So much so,
Interesting.
this is crazy. So much so, Tylenol, acetaminophen, can help you with emotional pain. Isn't that crazy?
Yeah.
Now, all the disclaimers about that for anybody listening, right? I'm not a doctor. That's not the latest TikTok trend. It's not a biohack. don't put a bowl of Tylenol on your desk and pop a couple before you
every
get to
time,
talk to somebody in a
you're
tough
having an
way.
anxiety attack, you're popping Tylenol.
Right. Like don't do any of those things. But quite simply look for the things you've been avoiding, put yourself in situations that you've never been in before and make you uncomfortable. And that could be as simple as going for a walk midday. It could be taking a yoga class if you've never done that before, going for a run, taking a dance class. Like where you meet this stuff anywhere translates into our capacity everywhere.
You're on the example of like working out on a muscle, right? It's interesting. I'm listening to you talk, and I'm equating it with also another aspect of physical training. If you go to the gym or you work out and it's part of a regimen of wellness that basically you're doing as a regular maintenance thing, to where you're not driven by what results can I get in the next 30 days. You're actually, you have embraced it as an ongoing choice. Versus where you're just going to basically go do that thrill-seeking thing, or that muscle thing, like you're bulking out for a competition or bodybuilding, right? It's a different approach. And it's interesting because I think at a certain point in your lives, that adrenaline, that hunting of discomfort could take a form that's very like high visibility, massive, like thing that you're basically pushing yourself out of a comfort zone, so to speak. But as you get later in life, and this is the interesting thing, because a lot of times when you're later in life, society, common thinking is like, well, you need to just kind of slow down, step down. You're not going to basically continue to do this. But in fact, you're offered the opportunity to now take on a different, maybe in my opinion, healthier approach to hunting discomfort. Just as the same way that you would basically be working out your strength and stability and health and, tone versus bulk. Right. Versus intensity, high intensity. And again, it goes back to that, the freedom to embrace your rhythm, not the contrived urgency that requires you to meet a certain goal within a certain time frame. You get to basically now decide what that timeline is.
That's exactly it. And I think if it's not from that deeper place you're pointing to, it's unsustainable. And we've all seen it, probably continuing with the fitness analogy is most obvious of like, I'm going to get super fit for 6 months. And then all of a sudden 6 months is over. The summer goes by. You had your beach body and you're back sitting on the couch eating ice cream. We start to just connect with the results, and we don't actually do the deeper work of the identity shift. We want to lose the weight, but keep the same relationship with food. We want the deeper relationship, but we don't want to change our communication patterns. You want a new career, but you want to stay loyal to the story of what you can't have or you can't do. And it's that slower, deeper work of something that's sustainable, shifting how you actually see yourself. So you're not just working at the 6-month goal or 12-month goal, but this is my life now. It's part of me and it's who I am. And when we can make that distinction and live from the latter, it's sustainable. It translates.
So let's tell people about No Matter What.
Yeah.
Where'd that come in?
Well, it started as a personal mantra to frankly get myself out of bed in the morning.
Okay.
To call my creditors. I never thought about it as anything other than that. It was just, okay, I'm going to go to the gym tomorrow. As much as I feel terrible and I'm, in this space of self-loathing, I'm going to go to the gym no matter what. I'm going to go for a walk no matter what. And it wasn't until probably about 5-6 years ago now, I was speaking with a keynote speaking mentor, and we were talking about my platform and what I was sharing and discomfort. And, the conversation got really personal. And he's like, Sterling, like, what do you tell yourself? And it was immediate. It's like, oh, no matter what.
No matter what.
And he goes, dude, that's it. Like, what have you been doing the last couple of years? And I share it and I mean it in a way where I'm not asking anybody to compromise their values or integrity, right? I'm not saying like no matter what, burn all the bridges, do things that don't align with how you want to show up in the world. But it's really more of a commitment of the container of growth of I'm going to commit to something at least a little, if not quite a bit outside of our comfort zone. And I'm going to show up, give it my all inside of that space, and maybe accomplish it, maybe not, but I'm going to give it literally everything that I have.
You touched a little bit on that risk, like burn the bridges kind of thing. Again, I want to just reemphasize that the thing that makes Sterling's book really resonate. And if sometimes you may be ready to hear the message, sometimes you're not. But one thing I hope people would get out of it is also that what we're talking about here when we say hunting discomfort is not putting your head in the lion's mouth because, you've never done it before. It's not burning the bridges. It's not torching scorched earth behind you. It's not risk for risk's sake. It's embracing the fact that life's uncertainty does not necessarily have to be a scary thing. And in fact, if you take a little bit of the helm on that and slowly build the ability to embrace it, there might be actually a positive that comes out of it. And again, my aha moment of the fact that when you wake up in the morning as a child, you don't know necessarily what the day is going to bring. You don't have all this discipline programming. I mean, I feel bad for kids these days, actually, because they're so friggin' rigid in their programming. It's like, don't get to be a child anymore, right? But you're actually, in a way, looking forward in most cases to the not knowing of what the day is going to bring, to be kind of surprised pleasantly, right? So that's kind of like that uncertainty, the discomfort that comes with that uncertainty is something that's not necessarily scary. Now, there's some people that are just like, I don't want to know at all, and I'm like an adrenaline junkie, and but that's not what we're talking about. So I just want to make sure people understand that, the message is really good here because it hits that balance. It really, and it's not talking down to you. It's not telling you, here's the bullet points of how you go about basically hunting discomfort. You first call this number and then you get your insurance and, make sure all the paperwork and the trust and everything is in place before you go do something goofy. But no, and it's really worth it, and I really recommend it. I've had Sterling's book on the RAAD Reads list on the podcast for a long time. I don't just invite anybody to basically share their thoughts and walk with me kind of on this platform. The no matter what platform is also worth exploring. You can check out everything at the website, at Sterling's website, and we will have had it basically posted up here during the course of this conversation. What I want to basically, and just let's give it to them, Sterling. What's the website? What's the Sterling website?
SterlingHawkins.com. Same for all the social media. I'm pretty searchable.
Yeah, he's as overexposed as I am, but it's like, it's a good thing. SterlingHawkins.com. Go look it up. There's a link to the no matter what platform. I understand there's more coming in that perspective as far as sort of a community hub, which I'm looking forward to. What the heck is the Sterling AI?
Oh, it's something I've wrestled with for a while because, like we've talked about, the human experience is just so important these days. It's critical, and I think we crave it, especially as AI takes over everything, and we're using it not just to help with work, but I know a lot of people that are using it as like therapists and friends because they're lonely. But we partnered with a company out of the Bay Area, and she talked me into it. Mostly a scalability function. She's like, there's so many people that are going to read your book. There's only so many people that are going to see you on the stage. This is an opportunity for people to get to know you and get some feedback from you directly, exactly like you could.
Yeah.
And in all of human history, nobody has ever been successful in stopping innovation. Somebody will do it somehow, and you can fight it, you can hate it, but it won't stop it. And I said, you know what? I want to be part of this conversation. I think it's a helpful tool. So yeah, we just developed it a couple of months ago, and now everybody's going to know on the podcast, but I think it might be smarter than I am.
Well, I think AI definitely has its place, and I'll admit I've used it for multiple reasons, including kind of like checking myself and sort of therapeutic,
Yeah.
if you will. So I think to not admit that's happening out there is not really embracing reality.
Yeah.
I think just like any other tool, it will be whatever, garbage in, garbage out. They will get smarter, but there's always, I'm fascinated by the fact that in a time when people used to get rid of older people that were seasoned and
Mm.
get them out of companies because you can get two people for the price of one. Now the writing of prompts for AI and the checking the quality control output is dependent on seasoned lived experience, which then
Yeah.
basically now makes everybody who's older and having been around for life or is so inclined to basically be more valuable in the development of this new technology, which is irony, right? I mean, that's sort of like the cosmic irony of things sometimes.
Yes.
And I like that idea. Actually, I mean, heck, I'm going to want to find out who it is that you're using with, and I would like to find out. But I want to ask you this because how was it for you when you interacted with this? And before I do that, if anybody is a Paramount Plus subscriber, there's a show called Matlock that has Kathy Bates in it, and it's kind of like it's an interesting story. Anyway, this last season, there were a couple of episodes where very early on, at the very beginning of the show, her daughter basically dies from a drug overdose, and the whole thing is about how she infiltrates under the name Matlock into a law firm, and she's trying to basically figure out how this law firm maybe hid the reality of the fact that there's a opiate epidemic from one of their clients. Anyway, long story short, she is actually engaging with her daughter's AI on a
Oh,
laptop,
interesting.
and she's going through the loss and the grief. Can you imagine? Are you able to talk to a loved one that has passed?
Yeah.
Now, again, it's TV, it's make believe to a certain extent, whatever. But the reality is that level of interaction, and I like it. I love it in the way because it has a place. I hate it in the way that it basically may cause people to be more isolated. So
Hmm.
again, it's a matter of what choose your balance, find your rhythm, right? But I want to know when you interacted with your own Sterling AI, okay, what was that experience like?
It was an out of body experience. So you talk to it, right? Like we're talking here, and it sounds like me. It talks like me. It thinks about problems or challenges in the same way as me. And I'm testing it as a beta user, and me talking to me, I was like, I feel like I'm having some kind of um, identity crisis here. But it was really good, and it's actually interesting you bring up the idea of death, because I was talking to the founder of this company, and she works with a bunch of thought leaders and so on. I'll get you in touch with her,
Yeah,
but she had actually done a lot of work preparing an AI for somebody that unexpectedly passed.
bereavement. I mean, I can totally see it. I can totally see it in the case of, uh, Alzheimer's,
Yeah,
memory loss, assisted living. Again, my call it rebellious, non-conventional side that still wants human connection, right? Can see how that could be also almost like an opiate of sorts in terms of isolation, like right. But I think for those who are in that situation, it could also be a stepping stone threshold towards an open door. Like it could be a transitional thing, right? Again, it's a tool. It depends how you use it. It depends how society decides to use it, and it's going to be abused, and it will be used correctly in certain cases. But
sure.
yeah, the idea of being able to, gosh, like you know have a conversation with someone. And again, it depends on the programming. It depends how much what you put into it, right? I mean, you're taking the time to genuinely build this thing, right? If you're trying to basically engage with your version of AI and you wanting it to be free or at 19.99 a month, then you're going to get what you paid for. So
Right.
there's going to be a place for it, right? But I mean, that's That's fascinating. And it's like not every day that I ask somebody, hey, what was it like to interact it? Now, did you have an avatar, by the way, or was it just audio?
Just audio at this point. But yeah, she took all my keynotes and the book and blogs, and I talked to it for a while where it was asking me
I'm just wondering
questions.
if I'm interviewing the real Sterling Hawkins or his
It's
avatar.
it's really me right now. It's really me. Um,
I
but
know it's
yeah, I think you said it. Like it's a tool like anything else, and it can be used or it can be misused. And
yeah.
if somebody passed and you're using it as an avoidance strategy of pretending they didn't pass, that's not helpful.
Just like alcohol, just like drugs, just like jumping into another relationship, just like
Everything.
overworking. I mean, it's just it could be abused
Everything.
like anything else.
Yeah. But at the same time, I can see it be a really beautiful way to commemorate that person,
Yeah.
maybe introduce generations down the line to that person, making sure they know what it is they're interacting with. There's a lot of moral and ethical questions around it, but we're going to find out because it's here.
Yeah, you're not. You said it. There's no stopping innovation of that of
No.
that nature, and you touched on it, and I think it's very valid. Like how many people basically don't even record past generations while they're still alive, so that we can pass it on. And you got families where people are starting families later in life. Grandparents may be no longer around. It is the next evolution of how do you basically capture someone's thoughts, feelings, messages. And the interesting thing is it then basically is not limited to what they said on a recorded video. You are able to then explore deeper, go down a different rabbit hole.
Yeah.
Because the idea is that the machine learning is actually doing the work. Yeah, it's fascinating. I think people are scared to death of this thing.
Yeah.
And I had an opportunity. And I think I mentioned this to you. I had an opportunity one time to be called in on a panel discussion at Cal State Fullerton,
Hmm.
and they called a designer to sit in between two AI guys. And I'm like, what the heck am I doing even here? Right. And I'm addressing a class full of people that are
Interesting.
scared to death that their jobs are not going to be there because they just they've just spent their life savings and they've indebted themselves to death to get a master's degree. Right.
Hmm.
And what was interesting is when we turned the conversation into a differentiating approach versus a marketing approach. Not a market. Are you marketable? Are you differentiated? Was the conversation.
Hmm.
And we start talking about sovereignty and identity. That
Hmm.
all of a sudden AI did not no longer was a threat or a challenge. Now all of a
Yeah.
sudden it was like, well, hey, self-doubt, all the deep work to basically own that grounded sovereignty in yourself, that intentionality and clarity, that differentiates you because there's only one of you,
Right.
right? And all of
Yeah.
a sudden, the conversation, I could see the light go on in a couple of people's eyes. Like some people were really scared, but a couple of people were like, "Whoa, hold on a second." And what was interesting is the two guys that were with me that were both Gen X. They're both in like one of them sold his company like for oodles of money just recently. The other one is very. I mean, they're both very engaged in AI,
Yeah.
early adopters even. They both started engaging with the conversation at that level
Mm.
of
Yeah.
sovereignty and identity because they were at that midlife point of life that basically that was now basically playing into this conversation. It was fascinating. I walked in basically thinking, what the hell am I doing here? And we ended up basically down a conversation that's down the path of you and I.
Mm.
That started off as an AI technology conversation. It's fascinating.
Yeah, I mean that's the level to have the conversation on. I was just with a big financial services group, I think last week or something, and we were having a similar conversation of, yeah, we can play defense and try and pretend AI is not here and tell you why it's not important and humans are doing it better, or we can look at it as like we are unique as human beings. We can offer unique experiences as human beings, and AI is maybe just highlighting the areas that are not as important for us to be involved in.
Well, and ironically, does that not then free us up, to use the term,
Yeah,
actually explore deeper, more meaningful, grounded realities for ourselves? I mean, again, it's a tool, right?
it's a tool.
It's a tool.
Yeah.
Sterling, I'm sure we ran over the time, but I don't give a crap because it's my show and I get to decide. So I really appreciate, man. You and I could talk for hours, honestly. And I think we will continue to have these conversations. I am really touched and very grateful to have you as a friend and a a fellow traveler on this journey. Honestly, it means a lot to me,
Honored.
and and I thank you. I thank you for the contributions for the and support of the with the RAAD Life. I really do enjoy reading those, and I encourage everybody to. No, I'm not pushing the magazine. You don't want it, fine, but jump on the raadlife.com, subscribe. We'll send you the email blast. You also find out about things like this retreat that we're doing by the RAAD Life that's going to be on June 6th in Irvine. If you're nearby, it's going to be purposely limited in terms of the tickets, but I understand that we may even have the pleasure of Mr. Hawkins' company at
I might
the
be there.
retreat in person,
Yeah.
along with other nice stuff to do. Now, we might actually, set up a monitor and have his AI version join us for a three-way conversation, but that would be really funny. Can I moderate you and your AI? Is it possible? Can I get it to moderate
I'll check it out for that. But yeah,
I'm
you're doing fantastic work. I'm honored to have this conversation with you live. I always love talking with you, and um, to be on this journey with you. You said it means something, so thank you.
Thank you, my friend. I appreciate your time. I really do. I know you're a busy guy, and I really, hopefully, look forward to seeing you in June.
I'll look forward to seeing you.
Yeah. Thank you, everybody, for joining us for another episode of the RAAD Life. Hunting Discomfort. Go get your copy. Don't be the person who's going to read this book after the second book comes. Get ahead of it. Then season 2 will be the book that he's working on right now. And then, like I said, go to the raadlife.com, subscribe. Love to hear your thoughts about the podcast, the articles. Give us feedback. Sterling and I, you could trip over us on social. So please, just trip over us all day long and let us know what your thoughts are, because we only get better. Honestly, we only get better hearing these things. Genuine, honest feedback. Nice, interesting, thumbs up. Tell me what you really think. Or engage with us. We're on LinkedIn all the time. Sterling's putting out really great content on LinkedIn, and we're exploring these ideas we're talking about in real time. Like, we're not just waiting to get the book out. We're actually putting it out there. And what you say, and you're sharing your own personal stories and your first personal reactions to things, that really resonates with us. Like, it helps us actually refine our exploration of this, if you will, and it makes it just much more meaningful. And then look out for under the events section. You'll see stuff about the retreat that's on June 6th. We originally had it in May for May 2nd, but with the inclement weather that we're having in California, we're like, I don't want to move it to inside. I want it outside. And hey, you'll get to meet Mr. Hawkins there too, So I love you guys for the support for the last 10 plus years. I can't believe we're closing out on almost over 11 years of doing this podcast. And when we started, it was definitely covered wagon days. I want to give a shout out to all the ladies, Natalie, Shannon, Kelly, Lenka, that basically make the RAAD Life happen, and allow me to actually have the opportunity to sit down and have conversations like this with people that I really appreciate and like. So join us for another episode real soon. Look out for Shannon's episode that she's going to be sitting in the chair as well, going forward. She got the bug. So, hey, I love having people come in. Maybe, who knows? Maybe a Sterling will host one of these shows.
I love it. I'm here for it.
Yeah, I would love that. And if you're interested in being on the show, let me know. Kelly is my executive coordinator. You can reach out to her. If you're interested for us to bring up a topic of discussion, as long as it aligns with sort of where our focus is, love to do that. Always looking to be curious and hunting discomfort. Thanks, everybody. See you on the next episode.